Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's kind of late, so I want to thank you all for coming. We are going to talk a little bit about community solar in Maryland. This is a hot year for community solar. So as we go through the presentation, I'll talk a little bit more about community solar in the state of Maryland. And I'll just give you a little bit background about myself. I'm Kimberly Armstrong, and I am the Maryland Program Director for Solar United Neighbors. And one of the reasons that we are here is because Community Solar has been a pilot program in Maryland. It started out as a 3-year program, then it got extended to 7 years, and now we're trying to make it permanent. So one of the reasons for doing this webinar and just trying to get people engaged and educated about community solar so that we can keep things moving forward and make it more equitable. And I'll get a little bit more into the details as we move along. We are a network of people taking control of our energy by installing solar and generating our own electricity. Solar United Neighbors is a nonprofit, and these are some of the states. We are a national nonprofit, and these are some of the states that we are in: DC, Florida, Virginia, Ohio, and of course, Maryland. We are also in West Virginia, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and a couple other states that we are in that are not on the slide. We are also in Texas as well, and looking to be in more states as we grow. So what makes a good roof for community solar? Now with Solar United Neighbors, our one of our mottos is building co-ops. And in building co-ops is really for rooftop solar. But from time to time, we do get people that may not be able to get solar actually on their roof. However, they still want to participate in community. So they still want to participate in clean energy. And so community solar is one of the ways they can do that. So some of the questions that we get asked often is, what if I live in an area that has a really, has a lot of shading? Or what if my roof is not facing where I get as much sun? So these are some of the examples and one of the reasons why community solar is really important, not just in Maryland, but I believe in across the country. So community solar is an alternative, and in Maryland, it makes it more equitable for a lot of people across the state. Who can't put, solar actually on the roof. So this is also for people that maybe you live in a condo, but you still want to participate in clean energy. So community solar is one of the ways that you can do that. So community solar, sometimes depending on where you live or, what region you're in, is not always called community solar. Sometimes it's called shared solar. Sometimes it's called community shared solar. And it's also sometimes called community shared solar projects. It just depends on, where you live and how community solar is being built in your community. So this is just an example. So what you do is you buy into an array, and sometimes you may have noticed as you're driving along and you may see those big old fields with solar panels. That actually could be a community solar project. And so the shares that you would buy into kind of depends on how much usage you use. So you look at a corner store uses more energy than the Smith family. Elementary school can also participate, and they use more energy probably than the corner store and the Smith family as well. So they may have more shares because of the capacity and what it is that they need to offset some of their energy. As I stated, community solar, sometimes you hear it called community shared solar, or even solar gardens. So you have some people who just may have like a garden, and you may see like a couple of panels just sitting there, and that could be a community solar garden, and it could be for just a particular neighborhood sometimes. So it just all depends on, where you live at and how involved people may be around getting community solar, in their region or in their area. Community solar is proportional, and it's not all or nothing kind of thing. And if you don't have to have it on your roof. So I think that's a big plus as well. Solar, the solar energy is credited to your electric bill, and the same value as if you had rooftop solar. So I'll give you a perfect example. I live in Baltimore City, in Baltimore, Maryland. And I have rooftop solar and I have community solar. And one of the reasons why I have both is because I got rooftop solar first. However, it wasn't, my roof is not big enough for me to offset as much energy as I wanted to make my energy bill even lower. So that's why I also got community solar as well, which made a big difference in my utility costs. You know, you get cheaper electricity now and in the future, because as you know, electricity rises. Very seldom does it ever come down. It's going to increase more so than it would ever decrease. And it also allows fair access to solar for all Marylanders. So that meaning it allows for everybody to participate. If you don't, say you're a tenant and you live in an apartment and maybe you want to participate in community solar, you can do so. Or if you live in a condo, you can do so. Or if you have, like I stated earlier, you want to participate in clean energy, however, you may not have enough roof space, or you may have a lot of trees. And I always like to use the example, in Maryland, we have a lot of places that have a lot of trees, like in Severna Park, some parts of Severna Park, Tacoma Park in Montgomery County. They have a lot of shading, but people sometimes still, they want to participate and they want to know how. And so this webinar really is also about how how we can more educate more people around community solar and how they can participate. So while the participation in our clean energy future, and it can be community-based power as well. So this is the timeline, as I had talked to you all earlier about, or mentioned earlier, is that in May of 2015, this has been a long haul for community solar. And I wish that, you know, a lot more people have known about it, but this is an opportunity for a lot more people to learn about it, but also for us to collectively push for community solar to be a permanent program. So in 2018, they extended the program to 7 years. And one of the reasons why they extended the program is because 3 years was not giving us enough time to really see if community solar was going to work in Maryland. So that's why it was called a pilot program. So we went back to the PSC and state legislatures and say, hey, listen, we think community solar is still a great program for Marylanders. However, we need some more time, you know, to make our case. So now here we are in 2023, when it's due to sunset in 2024. So here's just some basic terminology around community solar. In community solar, it works similarly to if you have rooftop solar on your roof. So the sun, when it shines on a solar panel, it collects what we call kilowatts. So it takes the energy from the sun, and its energy usage is called kilowatt hours, and it takes those kilowatt hours and turns it actually into power and energy. So this is the way that community solar will work. So you have a family, say this is the Smith family, and you have what we call customers, subscribers. So for instance, I am the customer, and then someone who develops and has one of those big solar farms could be what we call a subscriber host. I would find one of those subscriber hosts and choose, you know, do my due diligence and choose one that I feel comfortable and safe with. And then I would buy my energy from them. And then that energy that's producing from the amount of shares that I buy from that particular community solar subscriber host, then they would take and mix the energy, and it still comes down, and then I would get a utility bill. Now on my utility bill, I would see a credit. So say for instance, I was say Armstrong Utility, which is the subscriber host. So you would see a credit on your bill for how much energy you have produced from the community solar array. And then you would get a credit on your bill, and you would see Armstrong Utilities, and it could be a credit of like maybe $20 or $30 or something of that to that nature. So it's a full retail credit, just like if you had it on your roof. You also, and this is another thing that people don't know, is that you can also have multiple subscriptions, and it's okay. So say you Armstrong Utilities is doing a great job, but maybe they don't have the capacity for you to buy or offset your energy as much. So say you look at uh, say neighborhood energy, right? And they may have more roofs, they may have more subscriber space. So you say, well, let me subscribe into that site as well. So as I stated earlier, it's not an all or nothing kind of thing. So it's like solar is on your site and plus community solar, it's okay. And that's exactly what I had. So subscribing, on your own, here are some examples of subscription types. You get X amount of dollars for part of your output and, and kilowatt hours, and paying by kilowatt hour, or you can have money, once a part of the total array capacity, paying by the kilowatts. Just an example is 5 kilowatts. This could be like a prepaid purchase of energy. So with the subscriber host, I always like to tell people to do their own due diligence, because a subscriber host is, most of them are community, most of them are developers, or some of them are developers, and they have their own contracts. So you may have some host subscribers that have a credit score. Some of them may have a term where you have to subscribe into it. Most of them is about 10 to 25 years, and then some of them may have a what we call an opt-out fee. Some may have a termination fee. Some may say that you can't transfer it. So say if you have it with Armstrong Utilities and you move from say Howard County to Harford County, that you can't take your, but it's still in the same territory, BGE territory, and you can't move your actual credit or your actual subscribership onto another platform. So that's interesting, and it's also worth you doing your homework on. So here are some examples of what we call community-driven examples. So community-driven examples of solar is like, say I got my whole neighborhood, or say I got my whole community together, and they say, hey, we want to build our own array. We want to build our own community solar. So that's what they mean by community-driven. And I don't know if it has been, I think it has been done here in Maryland as well. I think Kingston is one of the projects where people said that they wanted to do it on their own. So they would have to do their own homework, find a developer. It's a lot of work into it. So you may not see those as often. And here are some of the states that community solar is in. We have Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, and DC. So there's a lot of opportunity for community solar to be across the nation. Community solar is fairly new, and I believe that with this new IRA Act that the president has put out, with so much resources around climate and clean energy and things of that nature, I'm looking for community solar to actually expand. So community solar is an equity opportunity as well. So when we talk about equity, it means it makes it more equitable for everyone. And a lot of times not with community solar, but with rooftop solar, it may not be as affordable or as equitable for everyone, especially if you live in places like I mentioned before, you live in communities where you may not have a whole lot of roof space, or you have a lot of shading, or even looking at giving opportunities and making it more equitable for people that may even live in public housing, things of that nature. So just thinking outside of the box and how we can try to include everyone into this clean economy that we're growing into. So as I mentioned earlier, these are some examples of community-driven examples right here. And what it does is that it allows us to have more people, in a community. And if you were to do this, then you would need to be looking for space. You would have to find someone, that has a lot of space, and also wanted to develop a community solar project in their, I guess you could say, own backyard. And you will also need to be finding your own subscribers or your own, customers for that particular project. Oh, so we do have some cases here in Maryland. So North Chevy Chase and Kingston. I thought Kingston was, but I wasn't really sure. But Kingston is also an example of community, so a community-driven solar project. And as I stated earlier, it allows access for everyone. Okay, I didn't do that. It allows access for everyone. It's a local benefit, and it's a very competitive market. And with the community solar pilot program, if I'm in belief that the legislation is going to pass to make it permanent. So I believe, even though it's competitive now, if it becomes a permanent program, it's going to be even more competitive. And not just being more competitive, but I'm looking at the opportunities where we can grow our workforce base, and we can grow our green economy. And we're talking about really, really good paying jobs to help build this clean energy economy. So I want to thank you all for your time, and I really appreciate it. And if you want more information, you can always go to our website at www.solaunitedneighbors.org/Maryland. And you can always reach me at karmstrong@solaunitedneighbors.org, or you can reach out to MD Teams at solaunitedneighbors.org as well. Alexis, you want me to take questions?
Yeah, I just posted in the chat, but if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat or put them in the Q&A, and we'll ask Kimberly.
And I also want to mention is that on February the 9th, we'll be doing a pre-lobby day training with myself and a couple of other of our colleagues to talk about the lobbying process, but also how legislation works. And we'll also be doing a brief talk around what third-party supplier is, because a lot of times people get third-party supplier and community solar mixed up. So I want to just, make it clear that those are two different kinds of programs. So we'll have someone on there talking about that as well.
I dropped the link for folks if you're interested in joining us for that training. You can RSVP there. And then Kimberly, it looks like we just got a question from Jan that says, how do you find out what community solar arrays are close to your neighborhood?
Yeah, so the way community solar works is not so much that it's close or you look for an array in your neighborhood. It has to be in your utility area. So say, for instance, if you live in Pepco, then the array has to be in Pepco. If you live in BGE, it has to be in BGE. If you live in Potomac Edison, it has to be in Potomac Edison. So it's not so much by the neighborhood, but it's by the utility territory.
Great. And on our website, I'm trying to find the link. We have
oh yes, we have our community solar platform. I believe it's cs.neighborhoods.
That might not be there's the link you're saying is more direct, but the one that I just dropped into the chat will connect you to that page.
Right? Okay. Yes. And if you go to our website and just put in, if you go to the search bar and put in community solar, you can, it's a platform that will come up, and you can give us your information, and then that opens you up to a whole different another platform where we have a list of community solar, what we call subscriber host. The lobbying day on the 13th will be from 12 to 5.
And I'll drop the link for that. You can also RSVP to join us for that lobby day. Great to have you, Robert, there, and anyone else. Looks like we have a couple questions coming into the Q&A, Kimberly. Robert asks, have you researched the Solar for All program in DC where small scale community solar projects are performed?
Yes, so Solar for All is like the big thing in DC. And I used to have a slide in here where we actually did a project in DC, and it was for affordable housing. So it was like a whole unit of affordable housings that actually was a project that we helped support in DC through Solar for All.
And we have a question from Maria that said, how do you discover who are the subscribers that you said we should research?
Yeah, so if you go to our community solar platform, we have a list of different community solar hosts. And what I always tell people is, because the information on our site is very general, right? But you can always get their information from our site and put it into your search bar and look at the organization. And this is just me personally. I would email them and I would call them and have a conversation with them, because all of them are different, right? So you have some that offer anywhere between 5 and 10% discount. You have some that offer 10 to 20% discount. And as I stated earlier, they have all different kinds of criteria, right? So you have some that actually do look at your credit. Some will ask you about credit, but not really look at your credit. They just ask, right? But they're not really going to look at your credit. But then you do have some that actually look at your credit. And if you don't have good credit, then you may not be a good choice for them, and they may not be a good choice for you.
And Kimberly, on the other side of community solar, we do have our solar co-ops, and Brad had asked when we will have our next community or our next solar co-op.
Yes, so our next community solar co-op will probably be, I'm looking for maybe late April, early May. One, because the community solar, not community solar, but our rooftop solar co-op is going to look a little bit different. So we're kind of like working through some things right now, but also I'm in the middle of legislation and policy stuff. So I'm gonna need a little break after session, right? So I can just come down for a minute and then go into put my co-op hat on, because there's a lot going on right now with solar and clean energy in period in Annapolis. So
If you're, which Brad, I know you are on our email list, you'll get notifications when we announce the co-ops and when things are coming, so you'll be aware and can spread the word. Brad asked another question about churches being able to join community solar. Are they able to, or when might they be able to?
yeah, so Brad, I believe I am on your email list for your church or synagogue, I think. And what I would like to do, and this goes back to Brad, after session, let's have another conversation about, because I know we had talked about this before about getting more churches involved. And now, like I said, is that this is the opportunity to go solar. If you want to go solar, whether it's rooftop solar or community solar, I say let's go solar, because it's time. So Brad, just keep in touch with me. I haven't forgotten you. I do get your emails, and we can have a further discussion about how we get churches involved.
And then Robert asked about if there's a program for apartment complexes and condos to share information and benefits of community solar.
Yeah, so that goes back to the education component of it. A lot of apartment complexes have no idea how to do this or how to get involved, or they just don't know. So this goes back to educating our community about how apartment complex and condos can take advantage of this, but also how they can benefit it. So they don't, if if you don't really show people the value, then it's hard for them to grasp it, right? It's like out of sight, out of mind. So if you can't see it, you don't really think it exists, right? So it's really about education and getting in front of people and actually showing, like, because apartment complexes are it's like a business, right? So you have to come from a business aspect when it's done, because at the end of the day, it still comes down to the money, right? So yeah, so that's my take on working with apartment complexes.
Great, it looks like we've answered all the questions so far. Does anyone have any other? Oh, I see you.
And and another thing, just to touch on condos can be challenging only because some condos work. I've had conversation with people who live in condos, and some of them have like these boards, and they gotta get people, a certain percentage of the condo members to agree, and all of this complicated stuff, that how people make life so complicated when it really shouldn't be that complicated. But that's one of the challenges with condos.
Absolutely. And then Robert asked a follow-up question if there's a brief we can send out so that he could go to apartments with information.
Yeah, so Robert, we have a lot of information on our website, and one of my goals for 2023, like I said, is to actually get in front of people and just like explain it to them and actually show them. So I want to maybe do like a road show of show and tell, right? How you get involved in this stuff, because it is complicated and it can be confusing, right? So I think that actually being in front of people and having a dialogue and having a conversation, people are a little bit more receptive. And sometimes you may have to do it more than once or twice. Sometimes you just got to keep doing it over and over and over again. Just like when you all, I know when I was in high school, sometimes I didn't always pay attention, the first 2 times, and then I had a test and be like, oh, I should have paid more attention, right? So the next time I pay a little bit more attention, right? So it's kind of that scenario on that thing.
And Maria, I see your question. I'm just going to ask Brad's question since it relates directly to community solar. Brad asked if there was a limit on the number of people who can join community solar due to there not being enough community solar farms.
Yep. So with certain community solar arrays, they have people that sign up so fast, because one reason is because it's not a whole lot of them, right? Number 2 is because they build a waiting list. So they may have, they say they have the capacity for 100 people, and say 50 people are already on the waiting list. So when they open it up, they already have half of the subscribers that they need, and through word of mouth, or however more people get the information, then those 50 people get signed up, and then it runs out of capacity. So now you have to build another, have another community solar development project. That's one of the reasons also why it's important for us to make this pilot program permanent, because it'll bring more business into Maryland, but not just bring in more business, but hoping that we have local people, local organizations, local developers looking to build more solar development projects so that more people can participate in it. So it's that saying, what's that saying, in the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come, kind of thing. So if you build it, people gonna come.
Well, on the note of legislation, Maria asked, what key issues or legislation are we supporting this season?
Very good question. So our top priority is making community solar a permanent program. That's number 1. But also along those lines, community solar also, in that bill, we have what we call consolidated billing. So consolidated billing would mean that instead of you getting 2 bills for community solar, you'll get 1 bill. And that's not the case the way it is right now. So, and also with consolidated billing, it allows opportunity for even more people to participate, because we're looking to do or figure out how we can work with people that may be on subsidies like energy assistance, or OHEP, light heat, different kind of energy assistance programs, how they can participate. So that's another reason why the consolidated billing portion of the community solar legislation is important. So those are our top two priorities. However, there other organizations are have different legislation that they are supporting, and I don't want to get into the weeds of things, but some is like net metering, some tax credits, things of that nature. No. So so you're in the Marble utility customer is choosing a different supplier. So one of the reasons why I'm doing the February 9th event for just having this discussion is because third-party supplier is different from community solar. Community solar is a Maryland statewide program. Third-party suppliers came into play when the utility market in Maryland was deregulated. So you have all these different suppliers that may not even be in Maryland or from Maryland, and may have like different kind of retail products, in other states as well, is that you can choose to sign up with one of them. And there's a whole story behind that. So if you come to the February 9th event, I will have someone on there that's going to talk about third-party supplier and what makes it different from community solar. So Brad says, doesn't that frustrate people and perhaps drop off the wait list? Could you lead a seminar on how on how builders of solar farms make a profit? What happens if the builders abandon the farm in the future? That's a very good question, Brad. I haven't, to my knowledge, is that it hasn't happened. And a lot of times what happens with the developers, the reasons why they develop is because they do want to make a profit. So what happens is you may have a developer come in and do a community solar project, right? And then they could sell it to a subscriber host, and that would charge them to actually fill up the and get the customers. And most of the time, when people have a vested interest in a business that's going to make them some money, they don't abandon it. Well, thank you, Maria, as well. And that's one of the reasons why we're here, for people to be educated, but also I always encourage people, do your own homework and due diligence, because I say that because it happened to me, right? So I'm talking from personal experience about some of these things, because I've had stories where, out of my frustration, like Brad was talking about, is that people just not being on the up and up. So, and I have no problem with calling somebody on the phone. I know everybody's into the email and the texting and all that kind of, but it's nothing like picking up the phone and having a conversation with someone and saying, hey, I saw this on your platform. Can you explain this to me in better detail? Because sometimes in emails, things don't always come across as clear as having a conversation and a dialogue with someone. Call me old school, right? But I still believe in talking to people. And I don't want to talk to a bot, because I've had bots tell me like they don't know what they're talking about because it's a bot, right? So that's my take on that. So also, Maria, if you are on our email list, you will get a notice when we're going to do the next co-op. And that should be kicking off probably sometime in late April, maybe early May. So you'll know, because I always do a kickoff. Yes, you can participate in community solar and win at the same time. Yep, you sure can. That's big. That's a bigger bang for your buck. That's another thing. Even though we don't talk about wind a lot, with Solar United Neighbors, because we mainly focus on solar and rooftop solar predominantly, but wind legislation has been around for years as well. I think wind was around before the community solar legislation was around. However, you don't hear a lot of people talking about wind. But guess what? Because of the IRA Act, now a lot of people are talking more and more about wind and having more wind projects, right? So there's another opportunity that I see it as a workforce development opportunity, but I also see it as a clean energy opportunity. Well, thank you as well, Brad. And like I said, just stay in touch. I will touch bases with you. I do get your email. I haven't had a chance to really participate as much in your, I think you all do like a webinar or something, or meetings. I haven't had an opportunity to participate in them yet, but I plan to. And come out to your church and actually just talk to people and see how they can engage themselves. And because we're a nonprofit, we don't promote, we try to stay neutral in it with Solar United Neighbors. But one of the things that I also do, and this is outside of my Solar United Neighbors head, is to work with other companies and organizations to try and help people make an informed decision. Because even though Neighborhood Sun is a good company and everything, there's a whole lot more other companies out there. I like to give people choices, give them options and give them choices, and then allow them to make a good decision for themselves. Yes, very true. Community solar is free. So how many of y'all like free? You can't get no better than free, right? I mean, free is free, and look, this is another thing. I just like to keep stuff very upfront and very real, is that I live in BGE territory. BGE, I had been in my house for 28 years. BGE has never ever sent me a check until I got solar. Okay, so now I have the utility sending me a check. It may not be much, but it's more than they ever sent me 5 years ago before I got solar, right? So I'm in a free program through the state, right? And then on top of that, the utility is sending me a little check every now and then, which is more than I got before. So those are just some things to think about. And also I'm helping the environment, and I'm, helping my community, and I'm passionate about what I do. So I'm just like winning, all over the place. So that's how, I like to think about things. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity. Are there any more questions? There you go, Brad. So you got a plus plus. So if there are no more questions, we're going to say going once, going twice, and we are going to say good night. So thank you all so much for joining us. And don't forget about February the 1st. I mean, we are February the 1st. Don't forget about February the 9th and February the 13th. You can go on our website and find out, go to the events page, and you can find out all of the information. So thank you all for participating, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.